I'm joined by Mr. Debashish Panda, Secretary, Department of Financial Services, and he is going to help us understand the reason behind some big decisions for the banking sector specifically that were announced in Budget 2021. So thank you very much for speaking with us here on Times Now. I think the biggest headline out of Budget 2021 for the banking sector specifically among many was that formation of Asset Reconstruction and Management Company. In simple words, a bad bank. What prompted the government to, take a call on this now? Because we know that, this idea was on the table in the past too.
I mean, you're absolutely right that we had received a proposal from the IBA, the Bankers Association, a few months ago. And then it was all COVID times. So the focus was at that point of time how to pump in the liquidity and credit into various sectors of the economy, which the banks brilliantly did, and transfer of several benefits through the DBT schemes and all. So that was the focus at that point of time. Now, I'll just give you a brief background why this entire concept now coming into play is that around 2015, if you can recall that the government and RBI undertook a huge asset quality review. There are a large number of legacy NPAs which were not recognized. So first and foremost, it was to recognize those bad loans. It was recognized, and the next step was to recap the banks so that they can make adequate provision and clean up the balance sheets. Then of course, the resolution was another very big important one, because just by pumping in capital doesn't help. You have to realize value from those assets in the best possible manner and maximize it. Now that resolution process is something which is going to be handled now by the so-called bad bank, which is basically, it's not a bad or a bank, it's the stressed assets which will be moving into a warehousing entity called the ARC, the Asset Reconstruction Company, and thereafter it moves to the AMC, which does the resolution. So having said that, you will find that the asset quality review, the NPAs and the GNPAs peaked in 2018, because that was the time when the complete recognition happened. And come 2020 December, this is the latest figures, that the NPAs have come down from a high of 8%
to 7.5%, I guess.
No, now it is the net NPA is 3% now, yes. Below 3%, 2.59, which means why it has happened, why this the gap between the GNPA and NPA has widened, because of the provision coverage ratio, which has gone up to from 50% to almost 85%. So that actually again further gives credence to the fact that provisioning has been done and the balance sheets are clean. So whatever profits are all genuine profits which are being now shown through the balance sheet. But if we look at the resolution, then there are almost now 2 crore worth of assets, 2 lakh crore, which are still not resolved. And these are assets which are more than 500 crores is the net book value, or the book value rather. So now how do the banks get their money from? And these lendings are in the form of a consortium. There are 10, 12, 5, 7 banks. So aggregation of the assets is a huge challenge. So every bank would walk and invoke their rights, and you are not able to consolidate those assets. So the whole idea the Indian Bank Association actually proposed that why don't we have a ARC AMC model, wherein the assets get aggregated, it moves to the ARC, and thereafter it moves to the AMC, who then with a professional set of people will manage those assets, create value or preserve the value, and then sell it at the appropriate time to a potential investor or to the AIFs. So that's the concept.
But then the other issue is that in India, do we have a market for bad loans?
Yes, of course. As I said, there will be potential investors to buy those assets, whether it is a power project or whether it is a road project or whether it is some factory making steel or something else. There will be buyers.
Who is going to manage this? Will there be government officials? Will it be professionals managing it? What's going to be the structure like?
It will be purely professionally run.
It will be a private
domain
entity?
experts. It will be an entity which will be promoted by the banks. Okay. The government will have no equity in it.
Okay.
So as I said, first it moves to an ARC, And you may ask this question, why not the existing ARCs?
Exactly
Why do you
that.
create new
Yes,
ones?
yes.
The reason is that hardly there are 3 or 4 ARCs which have the capacity to handle large assets.
Why not strengthen them?
No, that strengthen, that is not something, these are all private ARCs, it is up to there, and most of them are very thinly capitalized. So, they do not have the capacity to acquire these assets. As a result of which these assets are, the value is getting eroded. It is a worry for the banks that if they can get this money back, it comes into their balance sheet, they will be able to lend more, and moreover they can free their officers and staff to concentrate more on lending, which is their primary business, rather than trying to resolve the stressed assets.
It will be good for banks, that is what we have understood. But what I want to understand from you is the structure. Who is going to put in money for this asset reconstruction management company?
I'll tell you. So, then it moves to the AMC, and you asked a good question that who will manage. It will be a set of professional competent people who will run the entire show. Now, what happens when these assets are transferred? It will be transferred at the net book value, which means whatever is the loan size minus the provisioning is the value. And let me also tell you that what they are contemplating now is to transfer about 70 odd assets, more than 500 crores, and the provisioning is more than 80% in some of these assets, and in some others it is 100% already provisioned. So, therefore, they do not really need to require a lot of money to set up this entity. Why? Because when the assets are transferred, it will be a 15% cash deal, and 85% will be by way of securitized receipts, which means eventually when they sell the asset, then that money comes. So, what happens now, 15% is what they have to get as a cash deal, the assets that they transfer. But I said they are already provisioned, so that amount will come to some 7,000-8,000 crore, not even that, it will be around 4,000 to 5,000 roughly. And that money the banks will put in that money and it will come back to them. So, it is a cash neutral solution for them, right. So, this 15% is what they put initially for that ARC entity, and that money again comes back to the banks, because that money in any case was a cash deal which they should have got. Then it moves to the AMC, they manage and then take it forward. So, now the question is, whatever the balance value which has to be realized, which is known as the net asset value, that valuation will be done, and then subsequently it will be sold.
So, when the purchase actually happens, or when it is actually sold off, then that money goes directly to the bank?
To the banks, to the seller banks or the lending banks.
Another big announcement in the budget was about privatizing 2 public sector banks and 1 insurance company. Have you already identified those 2, the 3 specifically? And for banks specifically, what is the message that you are trying to give? Stronger, fewer public sector banks?
You see, you would have pretty much aware that we embarked upon a mission of consolidation of the banks, and today we have 6 large banks including the SBI, and these banks in the last 1 or 2 years have done very well in terms of the financials. So, they are in the path of consolidation. Their profits have gone up, the capital adequacy ratios have gone up, NPAs have gone down. So, they are looking good now. So, the idea is to retain a strong public sector presence within the country, and you can privatize some of them.
Any number that you have in mind that these many public sector banks eventually India is
so
aiming
that
for?
decision will be taken. There is already a policy recently announced by the government, and which says that in the strategic sector we will retain the bare minimum presence that is required, and financial services is one such sector where you have banking, insurance, and the other financial institutions. So, and then of course there are 2 or 3 layers which will exactly examine. NITI will be the first layer which will examine. Thereafter it goes to a CGD, the core group of secretaries on disinvestment, and then ultimately it goes to the alternate mechanism. So, I mean, we have still not reached that stage of exactly which are the ones which will be actually put up for privatization, but as we go through this process we will come to it. But that may also require, in order to privatize, some legislative amendments on which we have started working.
But that will happen in FY22?
Yeah, we will definitely try to target that in FY22.
Okay. And what about the recapitalization amount that you have now, fixed for FY22, 20,000 crore? Is that going to be sufficient? Are you banking heavily on ARC that will take care of the bad loan problem and you will not be required to put in more money?
See, the ARC is one of the solutions. Apart from that, as I said, the banks have been very, very modestly making all kinds of provisioning as per the RBI guidelines. So, the slippages are not expected to be very large, but the fear of the unknown is still there because the COVID has still not gone away. But thankfully, the economy is coming back, the vaccines are all there. So, we hope that the situation may not be that grave as it was being projected earlier, and even the analysts and even the central bank is also made those corrections depending on how the situation is playing out in the economy. Then we have a restructuring window also available by RBI. So, some of those will get restructured, and so therefore, the money that has been provided for seems to be adequate. It will act as a buffer. And one more important thing I just like to mention to you is that the banks on their own have gone to the market, and in the first 3 quarters they have been able to raise 51,000, close to 51,000 crores. Okay. So that itself also is a good sign and augurs well for the banks and their financial parameters. Okay. So, and another 10,000 crores is in the offing. So it has come both in the form of equity and also in the form of the AT1 and the tier 2 bonds. Okay. So, all this put together somehow gives us the impression that the banks should be comfortable, and government also we have made a provision and have that buffer. But however, it is our responsibility. So, as we go along, we will see whatever is required we will do in order to keep the financial sector healthy all the time.
We have with us today Mr. PC Modi, CBDT Chief, and we also have with us Mr. M. Ajit Kumar, CBIC Chairman. Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us here on Times Now. Mr. Modi, let me begin this discussion with you. Markets really gave a thumbs up today to Budget 2021, but there was a bit of a disappointment as far as salaried class is concerned. Why? We didn't see anything significant for the salaried class, sir.
Nothing significant for the salaried class in terms of some deduction or exemptions, I suppose. Two issues which I would like to flag here is, one, that there has been no increase whatsoever in the taxes. Two, they also got to appreciate that there is not much of a fiscal space where they could get any further relief at the given point of time. But yes, they could definitely look forward to a better tax administration. Which I am sure they would have witnessed in the last filing which they did, and the super speed with which we could process the returns and issue out the refunds to them. That should bring a lot of cheer to them.
Well, absolutely. There was no negative news, so that's the reason why they didn't really worry too much. But Mr. Kumar, what was this idea behind a new cess? We were all thinking about a COVID cess, probably that didn't come, but farm cess?
The needs of the times were that we required to have a separate fund for the agriculture infrastructure. But we also thought that we should not tax the taxpayer on this account. So what we have done is we have carved out a small segment from the taxes that we are collecting and ensured that we have this in a manner that is transparent, that the amounts are known and that people can see how it is being used. That was the reason for going in for this cess.
And some clarity is also needed. For example, 100% cess on alcohol, 2.5% cess on gold and silver bars. How will it really work?
It works out as a rate of duty on the value of the good. Just like we collect basic customs duty, on the same rate we work out this new cess. Basically, we have taken a lot of commodities where we have a sizable number of imports, and which we feel can sustain on this cess, and we have ensured that we should not in any way ensure that this cess creates a situation where the taxpayer or the commodity on which it is levied becomes more costlier. So
Okay.
we are trying to keep that.
How will that happen? Is duty going and cess
Yes,
coming?
yes. So the basic customs duty has been adjusted so that this tax
So,
can
for
be
example,
absorbed.
in alcohol, if you say 100% cess on alcohol, what does it mean? Does it mean that there won't be any change in prices?
There will be no change in prices. as well.
On the GST specifically, a number of frauds have been unearthed in the recent past. Are we also given to believe that there are certain loopholes which are being used by fraudsters which need to be fixed? Does it also point to that?
Let's see it from this perspective that whatever evasion is happening so far as GST is concerned would have some direct tax implication as well. And that is where the collaboration comes in. And particularly in terms of people who are recalcitrant in terms of discharging their tax obligations. So once a joint kind of an action is taken, then at least the people who are paying their taxes honestly, they also feel motivated that they get the level playing field. And it also ensures more of voluntary compliance. So it is in that spirit that I think the revenues are bound to go up with this kind of cooperation.
In the budget, it was also announced that, by FY14, the number of taxpayers were about 3.13 crores, and the number has now gone up to 6.48 crores in FY21. Can you tell us a little bit about the tax collection as well? Has that also gone up significantly in the same proportion?
It has. When the tax-paying population was just about 3.8, the collection used to be something in the vicinity of 6 to 7 lakh crores, and last year we did 10 lakh 50,000 crores. So revenues have also proportionately gone up. I mean, so they have moved in tandem, and now I'm sure with the better tax administration being rolled out, more and more people will join the tax net, and which in turn would again lead to more buoyant collection.
Okay. Any kind of a target that you have in mind in terms of increasing the tax net, considering that the budget is also proposing something called as a pre-filled form for return that you will now be introducing?
That would be a part of the taxpayer services which we are aiming at.
Okay.
I mean, we are trying to provide the information to the taxpayer upfront in the 26 AIS statement which we are releasing to the people in their own account. They can go and see what kind of financial transactions they have done during that particular financial year. It is a kind of a checklist for them that they have to see it while filing the return of income, whether the transactions are commensurate with the income which they are showing.
So
I just need to add to
Yeah.
that. What is happening is that taxpayers are complaining that filling of forms is very complicated. What we are trying to do is give them the form of pre-filled in form, and we are telling them that if you are happy with this is what we find that you are due for. If you feel that no, we have been charging you or we have indicated some higher amount, then you can edit it, you can change it. So they do not have to go to a professional.
Okay, so
The earlier
CS will become jobless
No.
from this year onwards.
It is not a question of the tax councils becoming jobless. It is a question of ease to
For
the
him.
taxpayer. As it is, this information is coming to us from various sources. All we are doing is putting it at one place in terms of one PAN and showing it upfront to him.
He can file his own return now.
Okay,
We're
so
giving
he
him that
will-
confidence.
So he will not have to really look at different bank accounts that he or she has.
Correct.
You will give one form which will have all the details of the total amount of tax that the person has to pay.
And since that information is editable, as was mentioned just now,
Okay.
so it's not that like whatever we have conveyed
Is
is the
the
final
final
word.
one.
There could be some error at the time, at the point of the reporting entity. He may have made some mistake. So once the taxpayer points out, we can always go back to the reporting entity.
Okay, and then you can get it rectified
Rectified.
also. Mr. Kumar, now 2.5 rupees as cess per litre on petrol, 4 rupees on diesel. At a time when already petrol and diesel prices across the country are touching the roof and it is becoming a big problem, is there any plan to reduce the excise duty on petrol and diesel? You've reduced it, but then you're not passing on the benefit to the consumers.
Right now, even after this rationalization, there is a slight decrease in the, not a huge one, there's a slight decrease when if you look at the
Excise
pre-budget
duty is
taxes.
coming
Excise
down.
duty, slightly.
Yes.
But we have put in a portion. The final rate would remain more or less what they had paid
But why
yesterday.
not give the benefit to the consumers?
We should have some money to take forward our expenditure also. We are not taxed. We are not gone in for a new tax. Many of the countries abroad, if you see, have gone in for a COVID cess. We have not done that. So we have tried to contain all our expenditure within what we are already collecting.
Okay. So we've been talking about India unearthing the black money. Where are we right now as far as this fight against black money is concerned?
In fact, if you see domestically, we are collaborating with not only CBIC, with the other government agencies also, and there is a free flow of information which is helping us nab the tax evaders. So far as foreign information is concerned, I mean, say action has been taken against those whatever disclosures we have had so far. And above all, we are having this common reporting standard. CRS information is also coming in. And now the entire thing is going to undergo a change. We have established a foreign intelligence assessment investigation unit with a typical focus on these kind of cases. Wherever we are getting information from outside countries under the automatic exchange route, I mean, so those would be given an absolute focus by this particular unit. So that is going to be the big change.
But then, as a citizen of this country, the viewer was told when this government came to power that black money is going to be the first menace that the government is going to be fighting. So till now, what kind of a progress? Can you quantify that for us that, we have unearthed this much amount of black money, or, this is what we have done to eradicate
In
this
fact,
from the system?
if I were to give you a rough figure, I think it is almost about 15,000 crores worth the undisclosed income which was detected last year.
Foreign undisclosed income? In the country?
In the country.
Okay.
And I do not have the numbers right now, but yes, for the foreign information which came to us, I mean, say not only the income has been assessed, taxes have also been collected, and wherever there were prosecutable cases, prosecutions have also been launched in those cases.
All right. Mr. Modi, Mr. Kumar, appreciate you joining us here on Times Now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.